I died. That's right. A heart attack at work took me to a place I never could have imagined. And there, something incredible and terrifying happened. Jesus showed me how long the soul really stays on earth after death. What I witnessed completely changed everything I thought I knew about life and death. Have you ever stopped to wonder what happens to your soul after you leave this world? How many times have you wished you could somehow change the course of your destiny if you understood better what comes after life? The revelation I received might be the key for you to understand the true purpose of your existence. I know exactly how you feel, that fear, that constant uncertainty about what lies ahead. I felt it too, but what Jesus revealed to me will make you rethink everything. I'm here to share this experience with you so that, unlike so many others, you don't go through life without truly grasping your real purpose. Because once you know what I know, you won't be able to live the same way again, and I want to help you understand all of this now, before it's too late. Before we continue with this incredible story, I have a quick favor to ask. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any part of this transformative journey. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like and comment below, telling me where you're watching from. Now let's get into the story. My name is Joseph Morris. I'm 47 years old. I work as a laborer, and until recently, I lived a pretty ordinary life. I'd wake up early, have my coffee and bread, give my wife a quick kiss, and head off to work. That day seemed just like any other, or at least that's what I thought. I was halfway through my shift, handling some tools, when I suddenly felt something strange. First came a slight dizziness, as if the world was slowly spinning. Then my chest tightened. It felt like someone had flipped a switch inside me. Everything went dark for a moment, and then the most unbelievable thing happened. Suddenly, I found myself standing there, looking down at my own body on the floor. Yes, you heard me right. I saw my body lying there in the middle of the factory. My co-workers rushed over, shouting and trying to help. Someone started performing chest compressions, another was calling for help, and I was standing there beside them watching everything, but no one could see me. It was a massive shock. I tried to speak, tried to touch people, but it was as if I were made of wind. I felt no pain, no weight, just a mix of confusion and astonishment. In that moment, I realized something very serious was happening. I was not inside my body. And although it seemed impossible, I was still alive, in a different way. But I was there, aware, and it was only the beginning. I still felt like I was floating, light, as if I had left a heavy burden behind. There was no more noise from machines, nor the smell of oil from the factory. Just silence. A different kind of silence. That kind of silence that seems to speak to you from within. It was then that a light appeared. It didn't come from above nor from anywhere specific. It was simply there, shining in a way I had never seen before. It was a light that warmed, that calmed, that made my heart beat slower. I felt it calling me, and gradually I began to sense a presence. Someone was approaching, and when I finally saw who it was, my legs would have trembled if I still had a body at that moment. Was it Jesus? Yes, Jesus Christ, the one I had heard about since I was a child, but who over time had been tucked away in a forgotten corner of my heart. He was there, right before me, in the flesh. It was nothing less than that. It was as though he were made of light, but a living light, conscious, full of love. Jesus looked at me like no one had ever looked at me before, with a gaze that pierced through everything, my flaws, my fears, my hardened exterior. And yet, he looked at me with tenderness, with a love so strong that it melted me from the inside out. I began to cry. I cried like a lost child who finds the Father after a long time. And even without speaking with his mouth, Jesus spoke to me directly in my heart. Joseph, you have forgotten who you are, but I have not forgotten. That touched me like a truth I had always known, but had buried deep within my soul. I had spent so many years worrying about work bill survival that I forgot the most important thing, living with my heart. And in that moment before Jesus, I realized that this experience was not just a shock. It was an invitation, a call to remember, to awaken. Still there before Jesus, something strange began to happen. I couldn't explain it properly, but it felt as if time had stopped. Or maybe it was me who was going somewhere else. A place that didn't smell like the factory, nor was it filled with street noise. Just a deep sense of peace, as if everything was exactly where it should be. Jesus made a gesture, a simple movement of his hand, and suddenly I was transported. I didn't know where I was going, but everything around me seemed to guide me. I was floating as if the ground didn't exist, but at the same time I felt embraced, wrapped in something I couldn't see, yet knew was good. Something comforting and, at the same time, immense. That's when I entered a different place. It wasn't like any other place. It was as if a giant room had opened up where everything I had ever lived unfolded before my eyes. A vision, but not just any vision. It was as if a large mirror had been placed before me. And in that mirror, I saw my entire life. I witnessed every moment, every step I had taken. And it wasn't just the big things I had done that appeared, but even the small ones, the ones I thought no one knew about, the ones I kept to myself. I remembered the good things, the bad things, the smiles I had given, the times I chose not to smile. I saw the mistakes, the wrong choices, and also the good decisions I had made. The people I loved, those I hurt, those I helped, and those I perhaps didn't give the attention they deserved. Every piece of my story was there, clear as water. And it wasn't a judgment, it wasn't a criticism. There was no anger in Jesus' eyes. He simply looked at me calmly, with a gentle smile. He didn't need to say anything because everything was right there in front of me. I realized that throughout life, I had always sought things I thought were important. But in truth, they were just escapes. Escapes from what truly matters. And in that space where everything was shown so clearly, I understood. True life was about living with the heart, connecting with love, with compassion. Jesus was there not to blame me, but to show me that there was always time to change, to start over. He told me with his eyes, "You can do it differently, Jose. You can live with more love, more peace." And suddenly, I found myself facing something I never imagined, the chance to look at my life not with the eyes of an ordinary man, but with the eyes of someone who has a second chance. I was still there, floating in that peaceful space, with my life unfolding before me, but then something more began to happen. I felt like a gentle breeze, the presence of something much greater, something beyond my own story, beyond everything I had experienced. It was as if the universe itself was aligning around me. Jesus, with his calm and compassionate gaze, looked at me and, in a serene way, began to speak. It wasn't with words, but with a feeling so profound, it seemed to enter right into me. He showed me not harshly or aggressively, but gently, that living isn't just about existing, as I had been doing until then. Living isn't merely going through the days working, eating, sleeping, living on autopilot, as if the days were all the same. No, he showed me that living is so much more than that. Living means understanding that we are here for a reason, and that reason is far greater than any daily task I was caught up in. It was as if a veil lifted from my eyes, and I finally began to see the greatness of it all. He made me realize that every moment of my life, every step I took, has a purpose. And that purpose wasn't just about what I did at work, or what I had accomplished as a laborer. It was something deeper, something that transcended my daily routine. I saw clearly that each of us, no matter how ordinary, has a mission to fulfill, something beyond our own understanding. And I, Joseph Morris, an ordinary worker, had something great to do as well. It didn't matter if the world didn't know my name or if I hadn't achieved wealth or fame. What mattered was the eternal purpose I carried within me. A purpose that aligned with the reason for my existence and with the love that truly we are all meant to share. It was as if he showed me an invisible road ahead, a path filled with light that I never would have seen if I hadn't opened my heart to what truly matters. He didn't tell me exactly what my mission was, but assured me that everyone has a purpose and that by living with more love and understanding, that purpose will be revealed step by step. And then Jesus, with that look full of wisdom, told me something that etched itself deep within my soul. Jose, you are here to live with an open heart, to serve, to love. Every small act of kindness, every smile, every gesture of compassion, all of it has an eternal purpose. It's not about what you do, but how you do it. I stood there absorbing every unspoken word, feeling them deep within, and suddenly a profound sense of peace enveloped me. I knew this wasn't just a pause in my life. I was being called to something greater, something I hadn't understood until that moment. But now, it all made perfect sense. Life isn't just about surviving. It's about fulfilling an eternal purpose that will resonate beyond time, beyond death. As I reflected on Jesus' words, something else happened. A sensation of softness surrounded my entire being, as if I were being held in a vast embrace that felt so light it seemed endless. And then the vision of my life began to fade, revealing something even more astonishing before me. Jesus, with his infinite calm, looked at me again. He seemed to understand the questions stirring in my mind, questions I hadn't even voiced, but were shouting inside me. What happens after life ends? That was the doubt tormenting me. Even without realizing, I carried that fear. Then he began to speak, this time with a serene smile. Jose, what do you think about death? What do you imagine happens to the soul after the end of physical life? I hesitated, trying to recall everything I had ever heard about death. I had always been told that after death the soul might wander for a time without direction or purpose, lost in some undefined place. I thought of death as a great mystery, where the soul goes through an eternal waiting period, not knowing what would come next. But Jesus looked at me with a gentle expression and replied, in a way that seemed to reach the very core of my being, "There is no wandering after death, Jose. The transition is immediate. There is no void where you remain lost or aimless. When the soul leaves the physical body, it is immediately welcomed and guided to its rightful place." These words sounded like an absolute truth within me. There was no doubt, no uncertainty. I could feel the certainty in those words like a divine revelation. Death was not an end, but a direct transition filled with purpose. It was as if the soul was guided by invisible hands to where it needed to be, like a river flowing along its course without losing its way. Jesus continued with a soft yet firm voice. The soul does not wander in darkness. On the contrary, it is immediately welcomed into the spiritual realm, where it will find what it needs for its learning and growth. Those who dedicate themselves to love, compassion, and goodness will have a clearer path guided by the light of the spirits that accompany them. In that moment, something unraveled within me. The fear of death, which had quietly followed me, dissolved like mist under the sun. I finally understood that there is no darkness or anguish in the beyond. There is no frightening void, no endless waiting. Death, contrary to what I had believed, is not a disconnection, but an immediate connection to something greater, something that would embrace me. I began to realize that death is not a terrifying event, but a door opening to a new journey, guided by love and understanding. The transition is direct, without delay or suffering. It's a natural change, like changing clothes or a well-deserved rest after a long day's work, and with that I felt immense relief. The fear I had of death was replaced by a deep sense of peace. I now knew that when the time came, I would not be lost. There is a spiritual journey planned for all of us, and death is just the passage to that journey. "Do not fear, Jose," Jesus said with a warm smile. "You will never be alone, and the soul always finds its path guided by the light." I took a deep breath, feeling the lightness of this new truth filling my entire being. The peace I felt began to transform into something new, something more urgent. As Jesus looked at me with eyes full of compassion, I realized there was something even deeper to understand. The feeling that overtook me was no longer just calm, but an awakening, as if something was calling me to act, to live differently. I looked at him, nearly speechless but with a burning question in my soul. What should I do now, Lord? How can I live after everything I've seen and understood? It was no longer about knowing what happens after death, but about how to live while I was still here on earth, with the time I had left. Jesus, with his endless calm, came closer and placed his hand on my shoulder. Jose, the experience you are having is not just to bring comfort, but to awaken in you a sense of urgency. Time is precious, and every moment that passes is an opportunity to fulfill your purpose. It's about making a difference in the world around you. It's not just about existing, but about living intentionally and with your heart turned toward the good. Those words echoed within me like a deep resonance. I had always known deep in my soul that there was something more to life, something beyond the daily routine, the worries, and the challenges that consumed me. But I had never known how to find that something more until now. Now standing before Jesus, everything became clear. Jose, he continued with a look full of urgency and love, life is brief, and you have a role to fulfill. Every action, every thought, every word you share with another person leaves an impact, a vibration that resonates through the universe. What you do with the time you have now is what truly matters. It felt as if a curtain had been drawn back, revealing a new perspective on life. It was no longer about surviving on autopilot, merely existing from one day to the next. It was about consciously living, guided by a greater purpose, in harmony with the divine. Yet alongside this came a strong sense of urgency. I could no longer delay my transformation. I could no longer wait to become a better person, to seek my true mission. Time was slipping away, and I knew that every second was a unique chance to grow spiritually, to serve others, and to contribute to the good in the world. I looked at Jesus with eyes full of gratitude and newfound determination. I understand, Lord. I can no longer live as I have before. I will seek my purpose and fulfill the mission given to me with the urgency you have shown me. Jesus smiled, and I could see in his eyes a glimmer of approval. Yes, Jose. Now you know that living is not just breathing and waiting for time to pass. Living is transforming each moment, each choice, into something that reflects the light and love you have received. As my vision began to fade and I felt my physical body return, an overwhelming sense of clarity washed over me. I knew my life would never be the same again. The fear I had of death no longer made sense because I realized that the real urgency was living with purpose, here and now. My encounter with Jesus wasn't just a spiritual experience. It was an awakening to the profound truth of life. I was no longer just a worker, an ordinary man. I was someone with a mission, with a divine purpose to fulfill, and that mission began immediately, with every thought, every attitude, and especially every action aimed at the well-being of others. The urgency wasn't just about death, but about life. And that's what I now understood. Every passing second should be lived meaningfully, because in the end, the only thing that matters is the legacy of love, peace, and kindness we leave behind. So with a renewed heart and an awakened soul, I returned to my life, knowing that every step I took from that moment on would contribute to something far greater than I could ever imagine. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to leave a like below. Also, share in the comments what touched you the most in this video. I love reading your thoughts. And of course, if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now so you don't miss any updates on this journey. Until the next video,